How's it going, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the High Voltage Show. I'm your host, Steve Cravens, and joining me once again, Terrence Tatum. How you doing, bud?
How's it going, buddy?
Oh, so good. You know what? Let me have my moment here real quick. Terrence picked the Heat in 6. I didn't. I picked the Celtics in 6. I should have no right to do what I'm about to do. But all the same, because of how good I feel, I'm going to do it anyway. So, read them in wheat, Philly! Read them in wheat!
Philly, Chicago, Minnesota. You know what? All these so-called experts, man. Oh, he's making a huge mistake leaving Philly. Oh, my God. He's got a perfect situation there. They love him. Embiid, Simmons. It's just it's the perfect culture for him. Shut up. Oh, he's going to Miami? Oh, okay. I guess he wants to retire early. What is he going there for? They don't have any pieces to put around him. Like, what were they? Silence. So, you were right. I was wrong. However, I am enjoying you being right and enjoying me being wrong. Okay, so I was dead wrong. You called it, man. You said Heat in 6. Bravo. You were one of the very few people that – and you said it with conviction. This wasn't even like you were like, guys, I think it might be Heat. No, you said it with conviction. Yeah, so my Western one, I was like, I can go either. But this one, I was like, this is definitely – I just felt – and a lot of it was what I wound up seeing is that there were games where it was close. A lot of those games were very close. But Miami gets into that grit and grime era. It reminds me so much of my 04 era Pistons that they just start getting grimy and like they grit out these games and you're like, yeah, that's how I expected this to go. Hats off. Like I think they played a fantastic series, and I'll say this because I think I never said this in my previous time. I think the Celtics roster and talent wise were the better team as far as the number as far as who's on the team. But I think Miami just plays a better game, and they are just more of a gritty, grimier. Especially when you get into playoff stuff, they felt more like a team than I think Boston did, and it showed.
It did. And at Barkley, it was before Game 6 when Denver and LA played their final game. He said something to the effect of like, the thing with Boston versus Miami is that the Celtics, it's almost like they take turns every night. It's almost like, okay, Tatum, you get the ball now. It's your turn to try to make something happen. Brown, now it's your turn to make some, Marcus Smart, Kemba, they kind of like, they play ISO ball. That's what they do. They play ISO ball, and whoever's got the hot hand, that's where we're going to go. Whereas the Heat, he's like, that's team basketball. It doesn't matter who's got the hot hand, who's, what position. If you're open, we're giving the ball to you and you just shoot it. That's it. Like whoever's got the open look.
They do some gorgeous things on that team. It reminds me, sometimes it bothered me a little bit about Larry Brown, but Larry Brown wanted to make sure that on those plays, everybody touched the ball. So he's like, all right, whenever you come down there this play, this 24-shot clock, all 5 of you guys have to touch this ball. Sometimes it was 4 because it was like, Ben, we don't want you to touch it. But you like all 5 of you need to touch this ball. You see that a lot with Miami. Like they'll get down there and you'll see passing after passing. Like this shot might be open, but your shot is actually slightly more open than mine is, and they'll just make that last rotation. And it's just genius. It's how basketball should be played. Whereas you watch Boston, especially when the cheeks got tight at the end of this game last time, they're just like, I'm just going to start chucking up shots because I don't trust my other teammates well enough to get this 7-point lead down, which all of a sudden now is a 15-point lead.
Yeah, that snowballed. I mean, so they were up by 6, right? 6 with like 6 minutes left, something like that. And that's when I started getting nervous. That's when I was like, oh God, here we go. Because Game 5, man, that third quarter collapse was.
Yes.
That was a 41-point quarter. At the most inopportune time, and the Heat just could not buy a basket.
I mean, that shooting percentage was terrible. Those middle games were all pretty bad, but that Game 5 was just like, oh, no.
That was bad.
Yeah.
That was really bad. So, and I'll be completely honest with you, man, and I texted you. I was like, man, if Spo's going to go with the zone the rest of the way, I fear that the Celtics might have finally figured out like how to attack it, because that's exactly like he didn't get out of the zone. He stayed with it. I thought he was going to go with man, try to salvage something in the fourth quarter. He didn't.
No.
Luckily, the 2-3 zone still somehow flummoxed, Stevens and the Celtics. I mean, isn't that kind of amazing how like you can perform so well against a certain defense, and then like 2 nights later you played the same defense and you still struggle.
Well, yeah, like you didn't learn anything or map out anything or change anything, and your players didn't really adapt or adjust to it too well either. It's interesting that took place. It also helps that like in the game you guys were hitting shots. Like Iggy was
electric.
Old school Iggy.
That was awesome because, I mean, you know what this Heat team is? This is why I think they're so lethal, is because on any given night, anybody on that team can heat up and kill you. And it's not like you can, like, if you want to key in on Jimmy, that's fine. He'll kick it out to Bam. You want to key in on Bam? He'll kick it out to Goran. You want to key on Goran? He'll kick it out to Jay Crowder or Tyler Hero or Duncan Robinson. I mean, there's so many guys that can really hurt you. And
you have so many guys that fear nothing. Like, and young dudes like Duncan and Hero give 0 Fs. Like, they don't care at all. Like, they'll throw their body to the wind. They're out there grabbing rebounds among everybody. I'm like, oh, these guys are. And Goran, I already liked Goran. I'm in love. The way he's played and the way he plays, he is a fun player to watch. Like, he is phenomenal.
And you know what, man? I'm going to go ahead and say this. So this is a testament to him and also to Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra. When they traded for him in February of 2015, they made a promise to him that they were trading for him because they were going to build a contender. And, that he was going to have the ability to play on a team that had the potential to go to the NBA Finals, which is what he's always wanted. He's played in the league. He's been in the league. He got drafted by Phoenix, I think, in 2008. And he had some dynamite performances in the Western Conference Finals, but he never got past the barrier. So think about it. He gets there in 2015. The 2015-2016 season was unbelievable.
It was really good, yeah.
Until Chris Bosh got blood clots for a second time.
Correct.
And they still took it to Game 7 against the Raptors in the semifinals. And then Wade leaves. They start off 11-30, finish off 41-41 somehow. If it wasn't for this postseason, that would be Eric Spoelstra's masterpiece.
Correct.
Considering the roster that he had.
Everything that was going on, right.
Yeah. And, despite all these hardships, despite the mediocre teams to flat out bad teams, quite frankly, the first round exit, the barely, missing the playoffs, he still stuck with it. He stuck with the hard work and the effort. And here he is in the last year of his contract, and he made it to the NBA Finals finally. Yeah. And I saw the pictures of him yesterday holding up the trophy in the locker room and with his hat on and everything, with a smile. He looked so happy, like he wanted it so bad. So out of everybody, yes, I'm happy for Jimmy, happy for Spo, happy for everybody. I'm happy for Heat Nation, but Goran Dragic is one that I'm really happy for because he has fought tooth and nail for this moment his entire career. So I'm ecstatic for him. He is so criminally underrated as a point guard. It's insane. He's wonderful.
He is.
Great teammate.
Fantastic teammates. You can see that he and Jimmy get along so well. And what I love, and this is, I think, the biggest thing, this is a testament to Jimmy. Jimmy went to so many teams and his personality seemed to kind of rub folks the wrong way. And a lot of it because they just didn't have – they were weak-minded. So he goes to Minnesota and he's challenging these players and he's challenging Wiggins and Carl and they're like, no, I don't – they're taking their ball and going home. They're just like, I don't like to be pressured like that. I don't want to be challenged that way. Same way happens to an extent in Philly. They're a little bit more accepting of that, but still to a certain fact, they're like, I don't like him being that aggressive with us. Gordon is like – there was even a conference or a interview he had. And he was like, no, I like him yelling at me or challenging me. Like, because if I'm not doing something right, I want somebody to call me out on it. This is the first time where where teams who consider Jimmy to be a problem, that very energy that he has made this Miami team the way that they are and reach these finals because he's pushed them and pressured them and made them into the studs that they are at this moment.
100%. I mean, isn't it crazy? So how fitting is this? A year ago yesterday when they clinched the berth to the finals, he had his first press conference in Miami for the Heat. And at the time, he got a lot of criticism, leaving the 76ers. Already had bad blood with Tibbs and all the people over in Minnesota, obviously the Chicago Bulls situation. But it sounded like he wanted to be with the Bulls. The Bulls didn't want him. And all these narratives, like you said, of being a toxic person, a bad teammate, a locker room cancer. And a year to the day, he takes the team to the finals. And now we're all looking at the teams he was with and being like, was he the problem or was it you?
Or were you just not willing to have somebody call you out on you playing mentally soft or just plain soft? As I feel like that Minnesota team definitely was.
yeah, 100%. And he, in his post-game interview, he was sitting there and they were asking him, about, the dinner that he had with Spoelstra and Riley when, he first met with them and how, what led to him signing and whatnot. And he said, you know what, man, I'm going to tell you this right now. This felt like home the second I walked into the building, and all I can say is I'm happy to be home, and this is where I'm going to be the rest of my career. And it's one of those rare occasions where a player and an organization are truly meant for each other.
They find their fitting together.
Yeah. Literally a match made in heaven. It's perfect because, that all they do is work, and that's all he wants to do is work.
Right.
In a way, he's kind of like he's an old soul in a new age body. He doesn't really belong in this NBA. He doesn't.
Yeah, he's not a shooter, which is a lot of what the NBA has become. He is more of that grit and grimy, does it all, throwing his body around. He belongs almost in the 2000 era. Like that old school 80s.
He would be fun. He would be wonderful on those Pistons.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He would have fit in perfectly. Yeah. But that era when the Nets, the Pistons, and the Pacers were all at the top of the East, that's sort of where his mold is, whereas everything else has kind of gotten a little bit more finesse and a lot more soft, if you will.
Well, no, yeah, absolutely.
And so he is a product of an old era, but him being the product of an old era surrounded by people who fit into this current era has made a team that can kind of call out the teams or take that step over the teams that are only of this era and don't really have that mental fortitude or that toughness that the Heat currently have. I love the fact that too this team was made without tanking. That makes my heart smile because it's an ugly. I hate that word and I hate when teams do it. But to be able to do it, to be able to create a team that basically gets back to the finals without ever having a year where you just all right, we're just going to call it. Let's go ahead and put in our young people and just see what the hell happens. That's a testament, one, to Riley, but also just a testament that tanking isn't always the way it works, Philadelphia, because you can get there via other means.
Well, and yes, you can. I'll go ahead and say this. It is probably nothing short of a basketball miracle that they're in this position because back in July, pre-Butler, my God, man, their salary cap situation was totally effed. And they had a bunch of mediocre players. They had Dion Waiters, James Johnson, two guys I was very sad to see go, Josh Richardson and Justice Winslow, because I believed in them both. I still do. I hope that Justice Winslow is able to get healthy and finally play a full season of basketball. Yeah. I hope Josh Richardson eventually, if he doesn't stay in the 76ers, I hope he finds a home soon because I love that guy and I hope he does have success. But, man, what Riley was able to do, old-fashioned wheeling and dealing and cap management, how do you have $26.50 of cap space and then somehow clear out all your bad contracts and sign a max player?
Yeah.
How did he do that?
Now are in a position, no matter what happens this year, is now in a position that this team that just got to the finals can now go sign someone else.
Oh my God!
All rookie deals. this is nuts.
He's amazing. How did you do that? It's he's doing some David Blaine shit. How did you do that? That's incredible. That's and before we talk about the finals matchup, I will say this. I'm thrilled that they're in the finals. Obviously, it's an amazing thing. I didn't expect to see them in the finals for, quite frankly, a couple more years. They're playing with house money because next year you're going to have 2 max slots, man.
It's just nuts.
in the East,
Yeah.
and you're already in the finals with two max slots coming down the way, and you're gonna have
People are going to be calling you like, "Hey, can I come through there?"
I mean, my God, you've got you've got the I wouldn't even want to call it a resurgence because those of us who watch basketball know that Spoelstra is the real deal and has been the real deal.
For
but
quite
this
some
is
time.
just like it's made it more in the public eye. Holy shit, he's great outside of LeBron, Wade, and Bosh. Wow. And now the younger players are going to see that, like the guys who maybe weren't paying attention when the Big Three was a thing. You're also telling me you're in a state with no state income tax, and you're also in one of the most beautiful cities in the country.
Gorgeous Miami, right?
Yeah, where the weather is beautiful year round. This might be tough. I mean, wow, Pat Riley, wow. And also you got a young. Okay, so Jimmy Butler's not necessarily young, but he's going to be there for another 3 years.
He's going to be there a while. Yeah.
And you've got Bam Adebayo, and you've got this guy named Tyler Hero who's coming out of the woodwork. Duncan Robinson.
Yeah.
Kendrick Nunn, if he's able to bounce back from whatever he's going through.
Right.
The future is bright. So, again, they're in the finals. Whatever. We'll talk about it later. But, again, if they lose this, I'm not heartbroken because, again, the future it's so bright you need sunglasses.
It's very bright.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. Okay, but before we get to that, once again, kudos to Eric Spoelstra because this is a guy who I have criticized frequently in the last 2 seasons because I believe no team in the NBA for the last 2 seasons has blown more double-digit leads in the second half of games than the Miami Heat, and I always blame Spoelstra for that, for kind of like taking his foot off the gas on his guys, or maybe pulling out guys too soon and going, experimenting with certain rotations that, you kind of took the lead for granted and you just assumed that you had him demoralized. He does that a lot. But to his credit, he has not done it this postseason, which is wonderful because I thought we were going to have a couple moments like that. And the closest we came to that was Game 5 against the Celtics when they were up by 12 in the first half. And then the gates of hell opened up in the third quarter. So, again, kudos, Eric Spoelstra. I know we were big fans of Nick Nurse and Billy Donovan, but clearly if there was to be a coach of the year in terms of the playoffs,
it's got to be.
It's got to be
Spoelstra. Yeah.
Just an unbelievable coach, unbelievable Pat Riley job he did. Jimmy Butler, everybody on the Heat, just unbelievable job. I'm so proud of those guys. This is the proudest I've been to be a fan since 2006.
I mean, I think it's got to be – this is like a Hall of Fame type of run he's doing because all 3 of the teams that he's faced were considered to be favorites in each of the rounds he was in.
Even the Pacers.
Right. Each of the rounds he was in, the other team was the favorites or had more quote-unquote talent. Like you have the Greek Freak. You have an MVP calendar. Like Indiana is pretty much a lot more even, but overall they were considered to be the favorites of that. And then they definitely had Boston has more talent than Miami. And all 3 of those teams were beaten pretty soundly. Like that Milwaukee series was it was a wash.
That's when I knew that. Honestly, that is when I started to have a feeling. Once they went up 3-0 on them, I was like, if they can do this to the Bucks, I'm still scared of the Celtics because they're loaded. But like, if they can do this to the Bucks and they can figure them out, then I mean, I know on paper the Celtics are the more talented team, but geez, the grit and the tenacity they have, they're what the Clippers should have been. Well,
correct.
Right. That's what they hyped themselves up to be. We pride ourselves on our defense.
Pat we pride ourselves on our defensive beast off you got the Morris twin off the bench, like that ruggedness, and like they wound up being very soft. I mean, the Denver team out hustled them.
And Mike Malone outcoached Doc Rivers.
Right. Correct.
We'll talk at the end of the video. Just real quick, give me your MVP of the Eastern Conference Finals. Because I have one that I think is pretty.
It's funny. Like just because of who he is, my brain says to go to Jimmy, but I think it's Bam.
It is 100%.
Bam is playing well enough. Now, granted, Game 5 he took on himself, but Bam's playing well enough. He won that game last night. Like that was
single-handedly
he lost his damn mind, but he won that game last night. And if he does that, if he's the catalyst, we'll get to it in a minute, but I think he's the X factor in the next series. He played his behind off, and if he can do that consistently for the Heat, they have more to it than I think people are giving them credit for. He played phenomenal, and he. Granted, some of it is because Boston didn't really have a big, but Tice looked just out of sorts. Like Bam was having a field day with that man, and I think he went from being I think most people had him as one or two of the most improved player, even though he was improved from he's like one of the best players to improve. Yeah. He went up another level in these playoffs, and I think that I don't know. If you give that to Spo, if you give that to him, if it's a mixture of both, or just being in this environment, because a part of that too is when you start winning, your culture changes and you start feeling good about yourself. You start doing stuff outside of your norm, and winning creates more winning. So I don't know if all of that is the perfect storm, but Bam is one hands down was the MVP of the Eastern Conference Finals for me.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, first of all, that performance last night was.
It was nuts.
Wow. 32 points, man. A double-double. Especially in the fourth quarter where, like, it's almost like he remembered Game 5 and was like, I'm not going to let
that's not happen again.
Not happen.
Right.
I'm going to go, like, just give the ball to me. I'm just going to, like, put it in there. And that's the thing. He's not just dunking or driving to the basket. He's taking mid-range shots too.
And these floaters, like these one-arm floaters, he's got moves around the post that make it very difficult to defend him because he's also already so tall and his arc is so high. They're just like, if he starts doing this floater or this little bunny more often and it can master that, he around that rim, around that little 4 foot, 5 foot, it's going to be very difficult to stop that man.
And you know what? His next evolution in terms of his game, it's going to be the same thing that CB did. Chris Bosh worked on his three-point shot relentlessly. I forgot what summer it was, but that was like he wanted to like really make that part of his game. And you're thinking like Chris Bosh taking threes, what the hell? But it worked. Mm-hmm. For a while there, it was unbelievable. I mean, again, it sucks that what happened it's terrible. But when he was playing, I mean, you could see that he was working on his threes, and it was amazing how when he first started, it looked kind of janky, like he hadn't gotten his progressions right all the way yet. It didn't look right. But the more he worked on it, it's like it looked more natural. I think that's Bam's next step is to hopefully work in his three-piece. If he can start nailing some three-point shots, oh my goodness! I mean,
it doesn't stop. You can't guard him.
Yeah. He's the AD of the East in that sense. If he were to do that. So anyway, we both agree. And of course, I mean that epic block on Tatum.
I play that back pretty regularly because I'm just like in my head. I'm just like I just keep seeing that shot over again, and that for me is like it defines this whole series for the Heat. They're like, Tatum looked like he clearly had it, like nothing but ball. Yeah, like it just stopped at the rim. Like, nope, that's not happening.
And for as awful as the refs have been, and they have been putrid
in both series.
They've been a laughing stock. I'm not expecting them to be any better in the finals.
Yeah.
Thank God one of the refs didn't blow the whistle in that situation because I mean, let's face it, in that situation, like if you don't have a clear eye of where the hand is in relation to the ball or Tatum's hand, I mean, a lesser ref would have been like
They would have called that,
but they didn't
because Tatum fell on his fell down. So they would have called that.
Yeah. So I mean, and again, people can talk about LeBron's block on Iggy in Game 7, but being the best of all time. I'm sorry, LeBron had to chase down Iggy, and Iggy had no idea he was coming from behind him. Bam saw Tatum coming right at him at full speed and just
went head to head. Like, I'm taking this.
Fuck out of here. Yeah,
I'm taking this. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you're out of your mind. You're not doing that. So yeah, Bam Adebayo, my goodness, and special shout out to Tyler Hero in Game 4 for just
going nuclear
party.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's talk about the Celtics. For me, I think the player who showed up the most was Jaylen Brown.
Jaylen did the most, yeah.
Tatum had a couple disappearing acts. He had the disappearing act where he didn't have any points in the first half. Was that Game 4? I believe Game 4 where he dropped 28 in the second half.
In the second half, yeah.
In the second half, again, it was like too little, too late. It's like, dude, you dropped 28 points and a half, and that was still too little, too late. My God,
Right.
Jesus. Kemba.
It's weird with Kemba because he, number-wise, was much better in this series than he had been in the rest of the playoffs. But I don't feel like it did much on the plus or minus for his team. A lot of that is because he is an ISO player, and so it doesn't really get other people involved when he does get off. But I also think he got in his head a lot of it. He was chirping at the refs a lot. He started doing the flop and stuff. He started to try to get calls. So I think he got sort of out of his game because of the grit and grind that Miami played. I think it had an effect on him mentally more so than it did. And it affected him on both sides of the ball, defensively and offensively. But I just think it got him out of his comfort zone more than I think he's usually comfortable with.
The Miami Heat are also his kryptonite because when he was with Charlotte, I mean, they were like in his nightmares. And I'm not saying that really had anything to do with this series, but I mean, it's just it's not like, I mean, obviously this is a different Miami Heat team than he was used to seeing when he was in Charlotte. But at the same time, the culture's still there. The principles are still there. Hard-nosed defense and just wear you out offensively with great ball movement and, listen, I'm not going to fault him entirely, but this was not the Kemba that we saw in the regular season. And I think if we had gotten that Kemba, we might have been looking at a different outcome because I was singing Kemba's praises. I was like, oh my God, Danny Ainge did an amazing job, getting Kyrie sayonara, getting a guy who's a team player who he's not as skilled as Kyrie, but he's still a damn good player, a really good player. He's an all-star. And he makes
he's clearly made the difference as far as the team chemistry. Like they went from being a laughing stock to now being an Eastern Conference finalist. So I think it's hard to put it on Kemba because I don't think it's all on him. I also wonder really if bringing Gordon Hayward back, like you have to put him in there, but I wonder if bringing Gordon Hayward back messes up any of the chemistry that they had in the previous two rounds. Like in the playoffs, they were used to not really having him around. And all of a sudden, like some of these shots, instead of going to Jalen, Jason, and Kemba now have to go to Gordon. And Gordon wasn't all the way on the series. It was very herky-jerky the way that he was playing. A lot of that is rusty, like he hadn't played. So I don't know if that was a team thing or a coaching thing saying, hey, yo, we got to give Gordon a certain amount of shots. I would think that if you're trying to get somebody back into the flow of things, especially versus this type of team that is so just in your face, I don't know if Gordon playing as much as he did made that much sense. But I don't know if you have any other choice either. Like you don't have another offensive weapon off the bench, really. So you have to do it. It just seemed like they were going to him way too many times for the purposes of this series.
I agree with you. I listen, the only I'm not going to clearly him not being 100% really kind of, it hindered everybody else out there. I mean, he still was productive more. I mean, he was productive in his first game back in game 3 because his presence really kind of got them back on track.
Yes, correct.
But after that, he was a virtual non-factor.
I think the legs just got to him. Like in the first game back, you had all this energy you hadn't had, but then you start getting thrown around and beat up. And by the time that your third appearance happens in game 6, you're like, I got nothing. I'm not in game shape for this yet.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? I mean, why don't we stop dancing around it and let's just say what you and I are thinking and what everybody else is probably thinking. I mean, the one who's really responsible for this, and again, I'm not taking anything away from Eric Spoelstra at all, but Brad Stevens.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Again, Spoelstra threw a zone defense at them. He didn't go man-to-man. And at times the Celtics looked like they knew what they were doing against it, like they kind of figured out. Again, game 5 in third quarter, like they just completely exploited the zone defense, and they just started making every three they took. It's just they were just pouring it on. I mean, and that's the whole freaking point. I mean, you take away the paint, but you leave them open on the three, and they were just making everything that you could take.
Correct.
And then again, game 6, nothing changed. I think they might have gone man to man a couple times, but for the most part, it was still zone.
They switched out of a few times, but for the most part, they stayed. I'd say 70% of the time they were in.
Yeah. They weren't in man to man coverage for a while. Like it was mostly zone, and it still gave them a hard time. And Stevens, what if he did make adjustments? They weren't working, and I don't know if he just ran out of things to do in his bag of tricks, but he got thoroughly outcoached. And again, third Eastern Conference Finals appearance, and you get bounced out, and your core is not going to be intact forever. You're going to have to start paying. You're going to have to pay Tatum.
You have to, yeah.
You have to, and then you're going to have to decide what to do with Gordon Hayward.
Correct.
So
which I think happens sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and on top of that, the East is not going to get any easier because KD and Kyrie are going to be back on the Nets with Steve Kerr at the helm. Steve Nash at the helm. I mean, might as well be Steve Kerr, but both white guys that were good at threes. But Steve Nash at the helm, so you don't know what that's going to look like. It could work, it could not, but at the end of the day, you're still going to have arguably the best player in the league.
The East is only going to get deeper. You are right. So you add Brooklyn to the mix. You put Boylan. I mean, not Boylan. You put Donovan on the Bulls. Like, it's going to take them a minute, but they're not going to be trash for long because those are young kids. Like, there are a lot of teams that have coaches that are switching around. Like, the East is going to start getting more and more difficult. And now it's clear that you're not the king anymore. So you're going to have to start.
Milwaukee's still Milwaukee.
Right.
And not everybody has the secret sauce to beat these guys like Miami.
Right.
Not everybody has a Bam Adebayo. I mean, so I'm just saying it's like I'm not saying that he should be fired. I'm not going to call for his job. I'm simply saying that you've got to start – we have to stop praising him like he's Phil Jackson. And, I mean, he's a great coach, but at the same time, it's like his flaws in the Eastern Conference Finals – and in the playoffs in general, for that matter, he wins so many games, and yet he just can't get this team over the hump. How many leaders of this team are you going to go through before you eventually break through that ceiling?
There's a ton of talent on that roster, and for that roster to not be in the finals is disappointing. It's a disappointment for the Celtics this year, and that's how it should be chalked up. I think Boston gets into this weird thing. They're not as bad as Philly. They don't do the trust the process stuff, but they always do say we have a good roster for the future. We have a good roster for the future. The future will be solid. The future is now for them because I think they are really running out of time as to getting the maximum amount out of Jalen and Jason at the same time while on a dollar that can fit their budget. They have to move Gordon. Like, Gordon has to be gone this year. Like, he's got a player option. He's definitely not going to opt out. He's going to opt in, and they're going to probably have to use his expiring contract to get something else of value to that team. Probably a young big somewhere. I don't know how they do it. But they got to figure out something to get a big on that roster
in a hurry.
Yeah, quickly. I mean, I would call Cleveland. They have tons. Like, see if Cleveland wants it expiring for Drummond. I don't see why they wouldn't do that because there's already too many bigs on that roster. But like they need to have something on that roster to change up what they're doing because clearly what they're doing now, this is their peak. And if this is their peak, they're going to start regressing from this point on.
Yeah.
That roster's not changing.
You actually, I mean, that's a great point you mentioned. Like, it's always about the future. We're looking towards the future. The future is bright. And they have so many draft picks that Danny Ainge has accumulated through all these trades. He's kind of like Sam Presti in that way over in OKC. Like, the draft picks they have is just like, oh, my God.
Right.
But at the same time, the core you have now that you have worked so hard to draft and develop just can't get it done. And now I refuse to believe you. If you think Brad Stevens was on the Miami Heat, if he was coaching this version of the Miami Heat and Eric Spoelstra was coaching that version of the Celtics, who do you think would be going to the finals?
The Boston Celtics would be going to the finals. Yeah.
So, again, Stevens is a great coach, but at a certain point, I expect Danny Ainge to start looking at him and being like, you know what, man? It's always manana, 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 and we've given you the benefit of the doubt so many times now. And you've been here with us through some rough times, no question about it. Like, he was there when they were an 8th seed, for Christ's sake. But when are you going to get to the point where it's like you're not maximizing this talent? And again, the talent that they have is absurd. Most coaches would give their right arm to coach that team.
Oh yeah, it's nuts.
So I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm not calling for his job, but if this happens again, if they fail to make the finals again, he's got to go. I
was going to say, if it happens again, I would start looking at something else to do, because I think, not to say that he's because he's not a bad coach. I just think that maybe the run here, because this is it will almost be 6-7 years.
Yeah, something like that. I think
be like seventh or
7 years, something like that. 6 or 7 years.
And he can't get past the conference finals. Then you're going to be like, all right, cool. You can get a team there, but we need somebody who can possibly get us to that next level. Now, what's weird is I don't know if you can really fire him without having a game plan as to who replaces him. And I don't know who that is, but I do think that real soon, one more year, if he doesn't get beyond the conference finals, it's going to have to be like, all right, we got to change this up.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, if I'm Danny Ainge, I'm starting to look at future replacements right now, because again, the East is not going to get any easier. And teams around you they're going to get better. And I can't help but think this is a huge, huge, monumental missed opportunity for the Celtics. And I'll leave it at that, because
I agree.
I'm not rooting for them. I thought they were going to win just based off talent, but clearly, what have we learned from this series if we haven't been taught this throughout the history of time? You can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't have the coach to properly utilize that talent, and you're going up against the team that may not have the talent you have but is hungrier and plays more as a team as opposed to iso ball, you're going to lose. And that's what happened.
Sounds a lot like that Lakers Pistons 04.
It sounds a lot like it. Yeah, it sounds a lot like it. Yeah, I don't think anybody on the Celtics hates each other as much as Kobe and Shaq did at the time. But
it's true. No one's trying to kill each other on that.
And I don't think I don't think Marcus Smart is trying to bang Jason Tatum's girlfriend or wife or whatever, the way that Karl Malone was trying to go at Kobe's wife.
That's true.
There's a lot going on that team. Phil Jackson deserved Coach of the Year just for managing that.
Right, just making that mess happen.
Yeah. But anyway, enough about the Celtics. I mean, it was a hell of a season for them, but again, came up short, and the clock is ticking on Brad Stevens. Again, great coach. He seems like a great guy. But, when are you going to break through that ceiling, sir?
Yeah.
Mike D'Antoni of the East, quite frankly, he'll always get you on the brink, won't he? He'll always take you right into the doorstep, but he just can't get you through the door.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's talk about the finals. This is going to be fun. This is the first time in NBA history that two teams have made the finals that didn't even make the playoffs the previous year.
I heard that stat last night, and my mouth dropped. I was like, wait, what?
Isn't that's crazy?
That's insane.
That's nuts.
Normally, you don't have this much – like NFL, that happens a lot. But you don't normally have this much parity from one year to another where you're like, wait, what? Two teams that weren't even talked about are now in the finals?
Well, it just goes to show you that one or two players can make a difference. And players taking that evolution can make the difference. Now, obviously, for the Lakers, it's AD.
Anthony Davis.
Yeah, that's huge. But for the Heat, it's
and
not only
playing the full year, too.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And getting that rest. But for the Heat, it wasn't just Jimmy Butler. It was draft picks coming in way ahead of schedule. Bam.
Yeah.
Being in his third year. Tyler Hero. Goran Dragic and Iggy. Well, Iggy was a trade, but, turning back the clock all the same.
Duncan. Yeah.
Duncan. Kelly Olynyk putting on some virtuosos.
Kelly's been,
I mean, the Heat just have so many ways to hurt you. So I'm going to go ahead and say this. The Lakers are the heavy favorite, and they have every right to be, because it's not just the Lakers, it's the refs. Sorry, this is the way, as the Mandalorian would say. This is the way.
It is.
It's LeBron and the refs versus whatever team they're going up against. The KD-led Warriors were just so good that the refs couldn't even the refs couldn't even bail out LeBron.
Can't do anything.
That said, I don't know if it's just like this nationalism that I'm feeling with the Heat right now, because I feel like a nationalist. Like I don't want to hear any flaws about my team. They don't exist, okay? Rah, rah. I think that the Heat's depth and their shooting ability, I'm not saying they're going to win. I'm saying they're going to make this a series.
This definitely won't be a 3-1 situation
No,
that the Lakers have been used to with this one. I agree. I think they are deep, much deeper than the Lakers are. I think they're more talented in their depth.
and
Than
I
the
would agree
Lakers
with that.
are. I think they're obviously we've seen is they're much better 3-point shooters. Now, it's clear though that they can have moments where that cuts off a bit, sort of like the Lakers do too. Not to the same extent because they've been Miami's not for the whole regular season. We're in a high percentage of the 3-point shot. It's just somewhere in the playoffs. It cooled off a bit, but I don't think that'll as bad as it can get. The Lakers can get even worse. So I don't know if that counterpoint will really work so much in their favor for the 3-point shooting. I don't see this being one of those 3-1 series that the Lakers have been accustomed to, nor do I see this being one of those series that a team. I don't see Miami allowing these games to really become blowouts,
I don't
like
think so either.
some of my Lakers games have been. Even with Denver, where it was a close series for the most part, some of those games just got out of hand for Denver. I don't see that happening for this Miami series.
And who are the Lakers going up against? Oh, yeah, Eric Spoelstra and Pat Riley and UD and Iggy, who know him very well. Though this is what's going to determine the series for me. It's not anything LeBron James is going to do. We all know that Jimmy Butler's and Iguodala are going to guard LeBron. The matchup is going to be AD versus Bam.
It is.
And whoever wins that is going to win the series, hands down.
And this is what I was saying a little earlier is like I think Bam is the X factor in the series. If Bam has games like he did in game, and it doesn't have to be to the scoring numbers that he had because that's a hard number to ask of him each night. But if he can put forth that sort of effort night in and night out, and both guarding AD and giving AD something to guard on the other side, I think this series can be much tighter and not be clearly as heavy favored as to the Lakers as it is. I think we've seen multiple games so far, and I don't know how this is humanly possible just because of his size. We've seen multiple games so far in this last round where Anthony Davis had 1 or 2 rebounds, which is nuts. That is insane.
Yeah.
Let him do that type of stuff versus Bam and see how that works out for his team.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's the thing about AD, obviously, is that he can shoot the 3.
Yeah.
But Bam can guard the perimeter as well as anybody.
He's I think that's what a lot of times where Denver got in trouble is that Jokic was playing AD, which is fine as a matchup wise, but he's a bit slow of foot to guard AD. Bam is just as quick to go out and stay in front of AD on those pick and rolls and those runouts for the 3. So I think Bam's a better defender to play AD and keep him honest. Like I think the Jimmy and LeBron thing is going to be a wash because Jimmy plays LeBron really well, and you know that like Spoelstra and Pat Riley are giving him stuff in his ear like do this because like we've seen all the tapes. We have all the footage humanly possible on this man.
Yeah.
And you're going to have Iggy and Crowder a little bit to throw at him too, so you're going to have some different looks. It's Bam and AD are going to be the cross, the ones that I think it matters. But I think once you take those off, because those are very even. I think the depth then goes to Miami. Now, playoff Rondo is a whole different beast. But I think the one thing that the Lakers still have that sort of it makes me hard to call. They're still so big up front. And I think having Dwight playing the way that he's been playing, and McGee, JaVale is JaVale, but he gets out there and he does something every now and then. But basically having Dwight play the way Dwight's been playing like a madman. And I think if you have Dwight out there, that sort of is an X factor. So I don't know what Spo, and I know Spo's coming up with stuff and game planning and all that stuff. I don't know how you counter that because unless you start throwing Leonard out there,
that's what he's going to do. That's what he's going to do.
Yeah,
that's exactly.
Probably get more run in this series just because you got a 7-foot body that can kind of like bang it out there with Dwight. This is time to use him. This is what he's here for. So I think that's where you put him in. I also think that you're going to see a lot more of Kelly out there because Olynyk can keep Dwight from just living in the paint. Because if you have a big that can shoot threes or shoot that 15-footer, Dwight's going to have to come out there and check him. So he's not going to be able to live in the paint. And it's going to be more Bam versus AD getting those rebounds one-on-one. And Bam's going to be like, cool, because he's not fighting for this like I am. So there are certain things that I think Spoelstra can game plan. I think that's why you have Myers Leonard there is for something like that. So unlike Denver, where the height was an issue, I don't. It's an issue here, but I think there are pieces that they can throw at it to kind of even and mitigate that factor. Now, if that is mitigated, this becomes ugly for the Lakers because I don't know if they have anything to sort of. What we saw in that Lakers series versus Denver is that when it became youth time and those kids started running, they had a hard time. And if you let Duncan and Tyler start just going for broke and just having fun and just being kids out there, there's a problem in that perimeter with defending people. And if Rondo and Dragic might kill each other in this.
Oh God. I'm so excited to see that. Oh, my God.
They might murder each other in this series. So while that's happening, Tyler and Duncan are going to be able to do kind of whatever the hell it is that they want to do because I don't think KCP can really – he's a decent defender, but he's not a great defender. And I think that that Tyler Hero, Duncan, those rookies are where it's going to come in. Even hopefully we can get Nunn back in there. But I think that's where it's going to kind of come down to the X factors for them. But Rondo Dragic, there's some matches in this that just make my mouth water.
This is the thing. It's like, the people who are saying that this is going to be like a wash for the Lakers. This is going to be like a four-game series, 5-game series. It's like, God, you guys really aren't paying attention, are you? You really aren't paying attention. Like this Heat team has grit, but they also have youth, speed. And here's the thing. You don't see too much size. You see Bam. But people forget, it's like, it's not just Bam. You've got Kelly Olynyk, who can also shoot the three and can rebound like hell and dunk. You've got Myers Leonard, who hasn't played in a while, who's Spoelstra. I guarantee you Spoelstra has been saving him just in case he's had to use him for a situation like this. If Bam's going to be gassed, we got a guy who's almost 7 foot tall, who can guard that rim.
Solid defender. Yeah.
And also, let's not forget about Derrick Jones Jr., who's got a wingspan like of a 747. Yeah. So they have multiple guys. They can if the Lakers want to go big, Spoelstra can answer that. Cool. So that's not a problem. And if the Lakers want to go small, I think the Heat got them beat in terms of that.
That's a winning combination for the Heat if they go small. Like I think the Lakers would want to keep it big because if you start going small, that favors the Heat.
Yeah, it really does. And I mean, again, God help the Lakers if there's ever a night when Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, and Jay Crowder catch fire, it's over. It's over.
Yeah. It's just, if you guys start relying on KCP and Kuzma, because Kuzma has not looked good.
No, he plays defense like an asshole. He's terrible. He's a joke.
He's been really exposed to this. Yeah. I always thought he was the third. I think I have to say when I first figures, I thought he would have been like the third wheel of this team, or like the third person. I was wrong. That dude's been playing like hot ass.
Oh, so my God. Have you seen his defense? Like, instead of like getting in someone's face, he walks past them.
Yeah.
What are you doing? How's that supposed to affect them? You're walking right next to them instead of getting in their face. What are you doing?
Yeah. He's been very much of a disappointment. Like, Rondo has been the guy that I'm like, oh, that dude's playing like he wants to be here and he knows this world. Yeah. And Dwight has been doing that as well. So I think there's some rough riders on the team. I thought Kuzma was it, but no, that was terribly mistaken.
Yeah. And whose presence would greatly help the Lakers right now is Avery Bradley.
Yes.
And and so here's the question: if the Lakers win the series, the finals, does he get a ring?
Avery does, because he was a part of that roster. But like I think if you were still now Cousins doesn't, but Bradley does.
What a guy! Yeah. Guys, like I don't want to go to the bubble and stay here with my family, but go win a ring for me.
Go ahead and get one for me, please. That'd be great. Thanks.
Karl Malone's sitting at home right now, going, "Motherfucker!" Like but then again, who knows? We might have. Listen, man. The more I hear it, the more I love it. And again, I'm not like buying too much into it, but this team really is the 2004 Pistons. just rough riders, these dogs, these, as Kendrick Perkins would say, these them goons from South Beach. I mean, like they ruin your day. I mean, like they go at you. So
they get up in you, they get under you, they irritate you. Like I think this is going to be so in like a lot of what I saw in that Lakers Nuggets series is that Rondo and Dwight got under the nerves of Jokic and Murray. Like they got into their head and just started beating them, playing bully ball. That's not going to work versus the Heat.
No, they're mentally tough.
Right.
They might laugh at you. Like they might, and they might love it. They might be like, do more of that.
Let's do this. Right.
So this is going to be a hell of a final series. I think for people who haven't been paying attention, who are expecting a blowout or expecting it to be underwhelming, I think they're in for a hell of a surprise because I think this is going to be one of the most memorable final series we've probably ever had. The storylines are all there.
Oh, yeah.
And here's the thing we have to remind ourselves of. You and I went to go see The Irishman the night that the Heat were in town to play the Lakers. And the Heat kept it close. They lost close. And then in December, the Heat played the Lakers again, this time in Miami on primetime, and they were up by 14 at one point, and then they lost by 2 or 3. I think it was 3 points they lost by, 3 or 4 points, doesn't matter. If you can keep it that close without Iguodala and Crowder, 2 of your best defenders on your team, especially one who has been known to lock LeBron down.
Right.
Listen,
and you're playing with people on your team who now have a new sense of belief in themselves. Like they, at that point in time in December, they were very much at the top of their rookie year. Now,
Kendrick.
Now they kind of they feel themselves. Now they know like I got belief in this. So it changes things a lot for that. It's funny because I was of the year when the Pacers and Pistons beat the crap out of themselves and the Lakers are like, oh, they're going to win this. This is not even going to be close. And because people weren't paying attention to what was being played on the other side. They're like, oh, that 60 point game. I think that's happening here again, where they weren't seeing what the Heat have been doing. Like, oh, the Lakers just they've been doing 3-1. This is going to be another cakewalk for them. Not really looking at the basics. Now, I'll say in a minute who I think, but I feel like this series is going to be infinitely tighter and just a fun series to watch from top to bottom. I don't think this is going to be one of those cakewalks, and I don't see it being over soon.
I don't either. And so my birthday is October 8th, and I believe Game 4 of the NBA Finals is October 9th. So I guess what I'm hoping is that, that we're right, and God forbid there's not a sweep, because God, the day after my birthday,
that would be a terrible birthday.
Last year I had the Niners going up 4-0 on the Browns. This year I'm not about to watch the Heat get swept. You're out of your mind. I'm calling up Spoelstra personally. Do not let this happen. If anything, you need to win October 9th. It's imperative. I refuse to be depressed. So, I think this is going to be a long series. I think this is going to be a hard-fought series. I think that, and again, the Lakers are top-heavy, man. And like you said, we both agree the Heat bench is infinitely, maybe not infinitely, but it is better than the Lakers bench. And again, the matchups are so juicy. I mean, you have Frank Vogel going up against Spoelstra, which is called back to 2013, 2014. And 2012, too, I think, as a matter of fact. It just wasn't in the Eastern Conference Finals. And then you have, you got LeBron and Iggy and Jimmy Butler. Then you have AD and Bam. And then, this is like the low-key matchup is Dragic and Rondo. Because, they're just going to be like two old people in the park with sticks beating the crap out of each other. It's going to be relentless. It's going to be so – I mean, Goran Dragic went toe-to-toe with Kemba Walker and did a pretty good job of, taking him out of his element.
Yeah.
I expect him to go up against playoff Rondo and really give playoff Rondo just the business. And I can't wait. This is going to be a great series. I'm going to be fired up. I mean, this is – and it's so good for the NBA because, A, they get LeBron back, or should I say LaChina, and instead we don't have the Cavs. Well, he was on the Cavs, but I'm so glad it's not the frickin' Warriors anymore, man. I'm so glad.
Yeah, I was like, granted, it's still a regular occurring team, but it was not the Warriors. We haven't seen them in a while, so it's the Lakers, and you get even though it's Miami and it's a nice market, it is still considered a small market team because of Miami Heat aren't one of the big ones. for whatever reason.
They're not the Celtics, which ESPN was pushing hard for. Jerks.
Yeah. So it's good to see different teams than the typical Warriors versus whomever KD is on, whatever KD versus the world or whatever team he's on.
Last year was obviously a breath of fresh air because the Raptors finally got over that hump. But again, it was just the damn Warriors.
Correct, but it was still the Warriors on the other side. So it's good to just see two new teams that haven't been in here for the last 2 years at least, kind of back up here. And like you said at the beginning, top of all this, two teams that weren't even sniffing the playoffs.
Yeah, that's nuts to me. And you know what else? In the last 10 years, the two teams that have been present in the finals, the Miami Heat and the Golden State Warriors, that was in the last 10 years. And LeBron was there for not all of them.
All but one.
Yeah, all but one. Yeah. All but one. That's crazy. That's
nuts. And as much as I as a Piston fan, I can't actively say that many nice things about LeBron. People need to put some respect on that because that's nuts.
It is. I mean, they need to put respect on that. They don't have to put respect on his 2011 finals performance, but everything because but anyway, you're absolutely right. I mean, that's really incredible. We'll do another video in the future where we can talk about Jordan versus LeBron. Spoiler alert: Jordan wins. But you still got to give credit to LeBron for everything he's accomplished because he could very well go 4-6. And here's a parting thought on the finals before we get to Doc Rivers real quick. If the Lakers lose to the Heat and LeBron goes to 3-7 in the finals and being this heavily favored, I don't want to hear that GOAT shit anymore. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, that has to go out. Like you got arguably one of the best. You have the best teammate you've ever had currently playing with you because he's in his prime. And then you would lose. You kind of got to throw that out the window.
I want to hear it. Like, get it out of here. Like, even if he wins, even if they go 4-6, I don't want to hear it. What's a bigger number, 4 or 6? Oh, geez, I don't want to hear it. But if you really go 3 and oh my God, can you imagine? Oh my God,
man, and, I feel like Skip Bayless would have a coronary if he gave that to him.
I know. I would love to hear Shannon Sharp and Nick Wright make all these excuses. Yeah. I want to hear the excuses so bad. But again, we're getting ahead of ourselves. For all I know, this could come back and bite me in the ass. But again, it's going to be a great series. Do you have a prediction for the series? Are you braver than me to have a prediction for the series? Because I gotta be honest with you. I have a prediction for the series. I don't even want to say it out loud. I don't even want to put it out there. But I might. The hell with it. I'll just go ahead and say it. I'm right now. I'm just going to go ahead and say. I'm going to say Lakers in 7.
Yeah, I mean that was my call too. I have Lakers in 7.
I hope we're both wrong, just like we were about the Nuggets.
I do too. My heart wants. I think it's going 7 no matter what. My heart wants Heat in 7, but unfortunately, I just got to think about when you go against the Lakers. It's not just the Lakers you're battling, and I've seen so many of these games when that kid Murray was going to the lane 3 times in a row and got fouled each time by LeBron and nothing was called. And so I kind of see close games like that happening for the Lakers. And so unfortunately, I do think it's going to end up going the Lakers' way, but I don't think this is going to be the easy cakewalk that it's going to be a dogfight for all of these games.
I think so too. But here's the difference, and I do agree with you that the refs are going to do everything in their power to give the Lakers the win because the narrative is there. But the only thing that I'll say is Jamal Murray has not, and this is such horseshit, but he has not
earned the right
to get the calls.
No, I agree. I don't agree with that, but I do agree that that's what
that's what it is.
I think the this is going to sound terrible, but I think the one thing that is really bad or in the favor of the Lakers and not so much in the favor of the Heat is because in February the Lakers lost a goddamn icon. I think the story reads better if they do this for Kobe, and I feel like that's what everything is sort of going to be geared towards. Even in press conference, you're going to be like, yeah, I had to do this one. Like, that's what the whole thing's going to be. And I feel like that's the story of what the NBA wants. And I don't agree with that statement. Like, I don't think anybody should be using that, but that's what's going to happen in this situation.
I agree with you. I mean, I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I'm not going to get into hypotheticals here, but let's just say that I agree with you. I wish that wasn't the case because, again, the NBA, they love their storylines. They love their storybook endings more than anybody. If the Heat are able to pull this off, it'll be one of the greatest finals achievements of all time. Just because
I will cheer for the Heat as if I did when I did for the Pistons. That's how happy I would be. I was like, oh man, this is.
It would be stunning. It would be nothing short of stunning because the amount of shit that they have to get over in order to do it is just so monumental. It's just. Yeah. And you just know that Pat Riley, if this happens, oh my God,
well, Pat might pull it out in the middle of the arena, like everybody. I'm just being all over. I'm the greatest.
Yeah, I mean, he might. I mean, and you just know he's probably gonna like make his way to Lakers locker room and be like, "So you left, huh? Like you thought it was a good idea to leave, huh?" I mean, it. And here's the thing: they already beat the Celtics to go to the finals, so you know he's just giving the bird to Danny Ainge. You just know he's loving every second of it.
Oh yeah. And then if he can do this to the Lakers, he's going to have a field day.
God. Again, storylines everywhere you look.
There's so many storylines in this. I hope for you it's the storybook that you want because that I also think that would just be good for the NBA because it's something that like you didn't see coming. A guy who was basically discarded from 3 different teams going to a team and completely turning that roster and that franchise around, and now Jimmy's found a home for the rest of his life. It would be a great story on that end too.
Yeah. I mean, again, storylines everywhere, but I mean that's the one I want to see. Oh God, I'm getting anxiety just talking about it. Remember, I watched the Niners lose the Super Bowl this year, so if the Heat lose the finals, fuck. I mean, how much? I can't take much more of this. I mean, this is terrible. This is terrible.
I'm not a Heat fan, but I will say this. You guys have a lot to look forward to. Even if this doesn't go your way, there's a huge future just because of what else can be done. So I think this is one of those ones where, yes, you're going to have some anxiety just because it's the Heat playing in the finals and that's just the way it is. But I think at the end of the day, if it doesn't go the way that you'd like it to be, you can still hang your head on like, hey, we got here when we weren't supposed to. We beat 3 teams that we weren't supposed to, and we got 2 contracts that we can sign to make this team even better than what it already is.
No, hey, you know what? I mean, and if the Heat lose, I expect you to send that text to me like the second it happens. So because yes. I'll be in a dark place. I mean, yeah, man. Wow. Yeah, man. It's going to be a series. I cannot wait. And I hope everybody enjoys it. But that's our predictions for the series. That's us on the Eastern Conference Finals. But lastly, breaking news as of today. Obviously, Doc Rivers getting fired from the Clippers out of nowhere. We did a video a week ago, and we were talking about, God, how did the Clippers not fire him?
They didn't fire him, and they're like, you know what?
We saw the video, and we concur. So, we talked about this in the other video. He deserved to be fired. He needed to go. I mean, he deserves another chance. He deserves another job. Just not
he should be hired, and he's probably going to be hired immediately. But I think we talked about it then. 7 years of not making it to past the second round of the playoffs it's just a problem. Like your whole job, you were hired when Vinny Del Negro was fired to get them over the hump. 7 years have happened and you haven't done that. And you've done that and you've had 2 finals capable teams with the Chris Paul, DeAndre Blake, JJ Redick era. And in this era, you've underachieved both times with those rosters. Now, obviously he's a great coach because the year where they had nobody, he overachieved. So he is a solid coach. He just can't get them over the hump. And I just think, and that's not to say that he can't do that with other teams. I just think the course of what's happened with the Clippers, especially now that you have all this talent on the Clippers and it's supposed to be a battle for LA. The fact that it's a battle for LA and LA, the Clippers aren't even there. It's just like, oh, well, shit. that's a lie. So now we have to move on. I don't know who you replace him with, but I just definitely think the Doc had to go somewhere else. And I was surprised that it took them a week to come to that. I don't know who got a bug in someone's ear that's like, hey, this ain't going to work. Something happened because this seemed like he was safe to, you know what, never mind.
I think this is just speculation, obviously, but when something like this happens, when you come out and publicly endorse a coach like that, and then a week later you fire him, I very much doubt it was something that Doc Rivers said or did. I guarantee you either one or more of the players, because remember, I mean, this team is set for next year. It's not like you're going to lose anybody. I mean, it's a 2-year team essentially. So I guarantee you one or more of those players basically went to him and said, hey, in order to maximize our chances, we got to get rid of him because, he lost us. Like we tuned him out. I guarantee you Paul George is probably one of them. Kawhi, maybe. And I'm going to tell you right now, Pat Beverly
probably threw him under the bus.
Lou Williams.
Guys threw him under the bus, yeah.
I think those guys are so – it's amazing. We were singing these guys' praises at the start of the season. Oh, my God. Kawhi and the Clippers beat LeBron and AD's Lakers without Paul George. Oh, my God. Remember, we were there. We were together. We were talking about it. Like, oh, my God, this happened.
Yeah.
And then to see you like just and all of a sudden starting to make a lot more sense now. Maybe they just didn't have what it took. Maybe they just quit on Doc.
I wonder that too. I also know that because of the bubble and the way that things were going, it's a hard time. It's a weird time to fire Doc, but it still has been 7 years of this. But the bubble is a bit of a different situation because you weren't around your team for a great deal of time, and then they may have gotten it in their head. This is what shows you, and this is why I call BS, but there's also part of it just shows you the mentality of the team. The two teams that didn't want to come back to the bubble were the Lakers and the Clippers. Lakers are in the finals. They turned theirs around. I'm like, all right, so we're here now. Let's go for it. The Clippers seemed like they had already stopped playing when they were asked that question. Like, do you want to be here? And they're like, nah. And they're like, cool, we're still playing. And they're like, oh, but I don't want to be here. And they never really came back from that.
Yep, and remember, they were one of the teams that actually was adverse to going to the bubble in the first place. And once they got there, they were complaining about everything.
Correct. And so I just think that in addition to Doc not being able to pull strings here and there, it's clear on talent left they got up to 3-1, but something happened where they just didn't have the heart in them. And I don't know if that's a team thing, or if it's a coaching thing, or if it's both. But the one thing that they can currently change, because they know that they only have a 1-year option to continue to do this team again next year, is to change the coach. And I don't know who you go with. I also think that some of this could have been Ty Lue has been getting a lot of job offers from other teams. I wonder if Ballmer was kind of just like, even if I don't have this team as it's currently constructed next year, I want to hold on to Lue for the future because I think he's one of the future coaches. I don't want to lose him. So now let me just go ahead and I've had people in my ear talking about they don't believe in Doc. Let me switch this up now before I lose Lue and lose an entire roster that I won't have to follow the year after.
Yeah, and I expect when we do one of these reacting to the finals, I expect us to be talking about how Ty Lue is the head coach of the Clippers. And now that I've put it out there, he's not going to be the head coach of the Clippers because that's just how it goes. Sorry,
Yeah.
Sorry, Ty. My mistake. But yeah, they would be fools not to hire. And I heard Jeff Van Gundy is in the running for it too, which is
Jeff
interesting.
Is in the running too.
But I think it makes too much sense to hire Ty Lue. He's there. He has a relationship with the players.
I think also too, with this being one of these truncated years, you have a player or person already on the roster who has, like you said, the comfortability with the team, who has the trust of the players. I think it's just smarter to just go with Lue for now, because you're not going to probably play anything until January, and it's going to be a lot of stuff that, like, you have a coach in place that is already sort of knows what he wants to do and knows what he doesn't want to do for this team. Like, he's seen how Doc lost the roster, so maybe he's like, all right, we can't quite do it that way. Here's what I want to do, as opposed to Jeff coming from not playing or I'm not coaching for quite some time to just kind of come in brand new and cold for 1 year, basically. Like, that's where it gets weird. Like, I don't know if Jeff wants to give up what he's doing for a 1 year rental of this team, because I don't think, win or lose, just the way that the NBA is going, I don't see that those two being there together the following year, because I don't really see much chemistry between Kawhi and Paul as is. I don't think they're going to stick around with each other the year after.
And they need to start taking the regular season as seriously as everybody else, and this load management shit needs to, if not, you don't have to abolish it completely, but you need to, I mean, that's why it's called the regular season, man. You build rapport with your teammates and you get better. You don't just ride the bench for, a lot of games and then not have the chemistry going.
They took the load management to another level, because I know Pop was already doing it, but Pop didn't even take it. Like Clippers were just outright just like, all right, cool, this guy's not going to play for an entire like week. Like, wait, what?
Yeah.
It was a lot. And you're right, it does mess up team chemistry. Now, everybody's team chemistry was a little messed up this year because of the stoppage of play, but they never really seemed to get back to it. Like we always said when we first started doing these, the Clippers just played ugly. And now that I think about it, it may not have been anything to do with like just the way that they play. I just think they just didn't have any type of chemistry together. And that's why everything looked ugly.
Isn't that crazy how like we were like, oh man, that's just the Clipper style. They're rough and tumble. They play dirt. They're grinders, man. They don't really have finesse. It's like, okay, but like, is that their style, or is that because they don't have any freaking core?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Is that their style, or is that just them not being on the same page and winning games in spite of themselves?
Correct. Like they just happen to be more talented, so they just still win the game.
It's gonna be interesting, and I hope it's Ty Lue, but again, hopefully the next time we do this, we'll have a couple of coaching hires to talk about. Again, Billy Donovan to the Bulls, great.
Yeah. Donovan to the Bulls.
Huge mistake. I mean, I don't know. They must be.
I know he's probably like, damn, does the ink dry on that? Can I renege? I want to take
there's this coach in New England that wrote out on a piece of paper that he was resigning.
There's a precedent for this. I can just leave, right? Like if I come to if I don't show up at the press conference, I'm not your coach, right?
Yeah. Or you could just do the Pat Riley thing and just resign via fax. I'm not sure if people still do that, but you can do that. Just be like, I quit. Like, here's some money. I temporary insanity.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Clippers. And Lakers Heat, it's going to be great. And thank you for joining me again.
Of course.
And we'll do another one of these after the Heat win the finals. But anyway, until next time, I'm Steve Kranz. That's Terrence Tatum. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Have a good night.